Mufasa. I am a performance poet. I prefer performance artist. I delve into theatre and everything else. I am really passionate about telling stories. I love telling stories. So for me, poetry is a channel for me to tell stories. I grew up in Eldoret, partly raised in Kapsabet, came to Nairobi for further schooling, and then refused to go back home. And that's how I found myself here. And of course, the plan was not always to be a poet. I think I interacted with the idea of being a poet while I was in Nairobi, joining open mics, attending open mics, and then I learned about poetry. And the first thing I did, I remember, was going to a cyber. And I remember they had offers. If you paid 300, you could spend your whole day there. So anytime I got 300 bob, I would just spend my whole day watching spoken word videos from all over the world. And then somehow I got inspired to tell my story in a different way. You don't study for this? No, but I think I practiced it because when I was in school, I was a poet guy. Like, I used to write poems for people who wanted to write love letters. They would pay me with a loaf of bread. There was that. And then there was this performance, the school competition. So I think that started off my career in a way. I think when I came here, what I did in Nairobi was I joined theatre. That was the beginning. And for me, theatre helped me now gain confidence in front of people. Theatre really helps you out because the difference about theatre and just acting on screen is with theatre, your feedback is immediate. If the audience doesn't like it, the feedback is right there. So I think that after that experience, somehow I got better in terms of my presence on stage. I think I enjoy writing things that are personal. So for example, if I'm told to write something about women and it's already that's my space. Like, I've been raised by a single mother. I have a sister who I really, really adore and respect and I feel inspired by. So it's easy for me to write along that path. So when I'm given a topic where it's easy for me, I really love that and I enjoy that. Of course, there are times when you're given something that is like, we're doing an event about public spending. You're like, what? What? So there's that. But the benefit of that is, the benefit of having a topic where you're not exactly well informed is it's an opportunity for you to get knowledge. So I normally view it as an advantage. Like, it's an opportunity for me to read, to expound on things that I don't know about. Yeah, so actually, in the whole thing of performance for me, is apart from me just performing, I gain a lot of knowledge of it. One, I believe in looking good. I believe in investing in your attire and your presence on stage. So that also includes background in terms of music. Who do I wanna? When I write something, how can I perform it? Do I see it better off with music? And if it was music, which sound am I looking for? And the other thing, of course, is now rehearsing in the house. And not just reciting, but also internalizing. So trying to internalize completely, getting the story. And I try as much as I can when I write something, it has a body element, like it starts from somewhere and goes somewhere, then it's easier for me not to forget. It's easier for me to internalize because I know this is where I'm coming from and this is where I want to go. So it helps out when now, even if it's something new, it's easy for me to have the piece in my head. So after I've written my piece, I have rehearsed a couple of times in the house. By a couple, it's like 1,000 times in the house. I identify the guys I'm going to work with, and then we meet up at a rehearsal studio somewhere. And normally now I ask for a specific sound that I want. So we'll create a certain sound, and then we'll try to fuse in my poem. And then after that, of course, we'll have another couple of rehearsals. And then apart from my look as well, I like when we all look a certain way. I really believe in people judge you at first by what they see before what they hear. So I believe in all of us complementing the whole stage, like for all of us to look good. So we identify what you're going to wear all together. This is how you're going to look. And I really believe in being at a venue earlier, like way earlier before there are people there. So I'm not talking about 30 minutes earlier, but rather like at least 3 hours or whatever time earlier before the audience is there. Just first of all to understand the vicinity, my stage, my movement, and of course sound, which is super important. Like for an artist, sound is the most important thing, and you can't test your sound in front of people. Then it kills out the element of surprise and everything else. You don't even want people to know how many you are when you're on stage or something. So you want to just look like and then surprise them with a bang. So that whole idea of being at a venue earlier is a one way that I prepare. It normally depends on what I want the audience to, how I want them to react. Sometimes you write something and you want them to react in a probably, you want to hear them voice something, like there's a loud reaction. Sometimes I love the silence. Like after your performance, people just keep quiet and they're like, ooh, yes, I think I said what I needed to say. So it normally depends with what I want in terms of the reaction that I want from the audience. I think first of all, I really love the idea that you can be on stage saying something and nobody interrupts you. Like that element of you performing, and it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, as long as you're on stage with a mic, everyone can hear you. So I found it like the best way to send a message, to put a message across. And then I think with this performance, I think I love the idea of sending a message across. Yeah, and poetry is the best element to do that. Because I'm able to, apart with theater, most of the times I'm performing what is already written by somebody else. It's not my work, it's not what I wanted to say. But with my poems now, this is what is in my heart, this is what I have seen out there. And if there's anything I want to talk about, whether it's about changing something or whether it's about something that I'm proud of, at least this is the best element to do that. When I began poetry, I never thought that you could be known or renowned because of poetry. Poetry was something that we didn't even like in school. Like, yo, Stu, what's the theme? You're like, what theme? Like, what's the mood? You're like, what mood? So I never thought that poetry could do that. So when I was young, I used to think about acting. Like you wanted to be Ramsey Noah. Remember that time when Nigerian movies were like the thing? You wanted to be Brad Pitt, stuff like that. You wanted to be a singer, not necessarily a poet. So I never thought that you could have an audience just pay to come in and watch poetry. So I didn't believe in earning from it in the beginning. It was just more like I was enjoying the fact that people are listening to me. But then slowly I found it something that I wanted to do. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So now it had to make sense. And I was thinking of how can it make sense to me. And one of the ways was gaining an audience on social media. So I remember I started posting poems on social media often. When I went for an interview, I would tell guys, follow me here. And when I had this audience going, the other thing that happened now was to do a physical now event where people can pay. And of course, initially you started low, like you started with, I don't know, just to be what? But I didn't start very low, it was 500, it wasn't very low, come to think of it. But yeah, we started there slowly. And I think for me, the one way that I see how the audience has reacted so far is the fact that I have charged people up to 2,000 to come and watch poetry. And it's normally like a sold out show. So that's like unbelievable compared to where I was in the beginning, where, come on, why would you pay to come watch poetry? So there's that reaction as well. The numbers even on social media, because I have every Tuesday I post poems on social media, Facebook, and I have over almost 80,000 followers. So it's intriguing even for me, just the fact that people are following poetry. Yeah, so I think that's one way for me to see the audience reaction. The best way is just to be the best version of yourself. I wouldn't even tell you to be like somebody else. No. But the other thing is to be different. Like, how can you tell because for me in the beginning, I felt like I wanted to involve music just because I felt just poetry alone was not appealing in some stages. I remember the first time I went to a concert and you're told you're going after Giuliani. You're like, come on. Like, Giuliani has a whole band. I'm coming on stage with only a mic. This is not fair. And it happened a number of times. Like, I don't know, Eric Wanaina. Like, oh, come on. So I think that part made me, challenged me rather, to see how I can work with a band, and that improved my stage presence and enabled me to be in stages where ordinarily a poet would not have been on stage. So I think just learning how you can be effective methods and the best methods for to package your art. I want my art to be for everyone. Like I really love it when I have a performance and I see younger people. By younger I mean like teenagers. I see people in their 18, 17. I see people in their 60s in the same audience. So I feel like that's the best way for me to send a message, because this means if I'm saying something, there are people in the audience who are actually able to do something about it. I think for me it's the idea that people forget you have to invest in it. People normally think, think about it for driving. For you can be a good driver. You can learn driving at home and whatever, but you still have to go get your driving license. So that means you have to go through driving school. Even anything else, if you want to be a boxer, there's a whole training, there's text years and everything else. But many people just see poetry and they're like, I'm already a poet. You change your name on Facebook, you're like, Timothy Poet, and that's it, you're there. But we have to learn that, we have to understand that we have to read. We have to be knowledgeable before we have something to share. We have to read and read extensively. We have to read poems, we have to read stories, we have to, whether it's fiction, whether it's true stories, we have to watch other performances as well. We have to learn about performance, like storytelling, oration, all these things. You have to be a good narrator on stage. You have to learn the basics of marketing and everything else about your art. You have to find themes that intrigue you or that you really feel like are personal to you, so that when you're sharing something, people can people can believe something, whatever you're saying. So it's not just words, but rather it's something that's coming off a place of depth and a place of basically believable change. But funny, my mother did not. I remember when I said I wanted to study communications. My mother was like, ayos ni watu wameanguka kabisa. Like, nah. But she started supporting me after. I remember one time I was on TV and I was performing a poem. It's called Son of a Woman. In the poem I'm saying, I'm a son of a woman, a black woman. And then my mother called me and said, Kibet, nasikia uko kwa TV jana. Mbona ukutembea uko kwa TV? And then I started laughing, and then she said, nasikia uliambia watu mume wako ni mweusi kabisa. And I remember the last time I was launching a book. So I have a book, Raising a Son. I launched it like 2 years ago. And the CJ Willie Mutunga launched the book. I remember my mother was there and she was sitting behind CJ. And after the event, they took pictures and everything else. And my mother was so proud. My mother was just talking the whole time. She was like, hey, Alinita, can you put it to bigger picture? She was so happy. So I think any parent, of course, I think the worry is it's not like they're against art. It's just the worry that it might not be sustainable, which I understand. But the ones they see there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I think they will come through. Yeah, there's a couple. I think the other thing, just the fact that poetry itself is not, people don't view it as in terms of not being in a conventional level compared to other genres or other art, like music, like acting. You feel like people are demeaning you in a way, demeaning the art itself in a way. You go on a stage and people are excited about something else, like the musician, but poetry, they're like, hey, we'll have poetry today. Just the whole converting people, because you see other artists, what they're doing is they come into the artistry to just perform. They have already audience. Like when you were born, people were already enjoying music. Our parents were enjoying music. Our parents were enjoying movies. So when you come in with content, you already have an audience. But with spoken word, there was no audience. Like if it was a very, very small crowd. So ours was not just releasing content, but converting people. And we were John the Baptist. So there was that challenge of converting people for them to believe or to enjoy poetry. There was that, of course. And then there's that aspect of, again, misrepresentation, because when people don't know spoken word very well, that means organizers and event organizers, when they request for a poet, they'll just say, we want a poet. And if you just pick anyone, I mean, think about it. You don't just say, I want any musician. You say, I want this specific artist. So with poetry, there was that bit of people just saying, I want a poet. And once they did a shady job, then it would be a bad name for spoken. People were like, no, spoken word is horrible. No, we don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. So there's that challenge of misrepresentation, even now. But that's why we do workshops, we do all these things. We do poetry slams. We try as much as we can for people to see ways in which you can produce or rather perform your poetry in a more better and quality way. Yeah, I think all across genres, I watch music videos and I'm challenged. I'm like, I want to tell my music video this way. I watch other people performing and I'm like, I want to hold the audience like that. I read others and I'm like, because for me, apart from just, I understand spoken word is more about performance on stage, but I also want it to be in a form where if it is read, if I put it in a book or if I post it, someone will enjoy the writing. So I'm also intrigued when I see writers, Biko and who, and I see how they're able to captivate the audience. I'm like, even when I'm writing, I need to make sure it's in a form where it can be performed, yes, but as well it can be read and still as much captivating. So I would say I wouldn't even pick one genre or one artist. No, for me it's all across, as well as personal agendas. They inspire me, like personally, like Wangari Maathai, Green Belt Movement. When I read their stories, it's more about enforcing my belief. Like what exactly do I want to change? So it's all across, yeah. But definitely, you have to have mentors in a way. You do have to have them in your life. I think so, yes, because you see, as a performer, I see things as myself as a performer, but somebody else will see it as an audience. So to get feedback from somebody who sees my performance in terms of as an audience is very different from me just interpreting things for my own.